Imagine you're a small, shrew-like mammal living 66 million years ago. You spend your whole life underground in burrows, coming out only at night. Above you, the world belongs to something else entirely. Animals the size of buildings, animals that can crush your entire family in a single footstep without even noticing. You've been hiding from them for 165 million years. Then one afternoon, the sky changes. A light brighter than the sun, then heat that sets forests on fire from 1,000 miles away. Then darkness that doesn't lift for years. You survive because you're small, because you're underground, because you don't need much to stay alive. And when you finally come back up, the giants are gone. All of them. Every single non-bird dinosaur on Earth wiped out in what is, geologically speaking, an instant. That's the world we actually got. But what if the asteroid had missed? Today, when you think about dinosaurs, you think about museums, big gray bones behind velvet ropes, maybe a movie with a T-Rex chasing a Jeep. They're extinct, they're ancient, they're safe. Something you can stand 3 feet away from because it's made of plaster. But for 165 million years, dinosaurs weren't a museum exhibit. They were the most successful large animals this planet has ever produced. And if one 6-mile wide rock had been running just a few minutes early or late, missing Earth by a margin smaller than the planet's own diameter, none of what you know as normal would exist. Not because dinosaurs would have destroyed us, because we would never have gotten the chance to become us in the first place. So let's actually break down what that world looks like, because it's not as simple as big lizards everywhere. 3 things would be true. The first is that mammals would have stayed small. For the entire time dinosaurs were alive, mammals never got much bigger than a badger. Not because they couldn't evolve to be bigger, because every ecological niche large enough to support a big body was already occupied by something with teeth and a 100-million-year head start. Paleontologists call this competitive exclusion, and the fossil record backs it up perfectly. The moment dinosaurs disappeared, mammals ballooned in size within about 10 million years, a blink of an eye in geological time. Without that extinction, there's no reason to think that pattern would have broken. The second is that evolution doesn't stop just because we imagine it frozen in place. Dinosaurs in the late Cretaceous were still changing fast. Troodon, a small, sharp-eyed predator from what's now Canada, had one of the largest brain-to-body ratios of any dinosaur ever found, comparable to some living birds. In 1982, paleontologist Dale Russell proposed that if Troodon-like dinosaurs had kept evolving along that trajectory, uninterrupted, you could end up with something upright, large-brained, and dexterous. He called it the Dinosauroid. Most paleontologists today think the specific shape he proposed was too human-like, too shaped by our own bias about what intelligence has to look like. But the underlying point survives. Nothing about being a dinosaur capped how smart or how capable that lineage could become. The third thing worth knowing is one most people never learn in school. Dinosaurs never actually went fully extinct. Birds are dinosaurs. Not descended from dinosaurs, they are dinosaurs, a surviving branch of the theropod family tree that includes T-Rex and Velociraptor. So the honest version of the question isn't, what if dinosaurs survived? It's, what if their non-avian relatives had survived too, alongside the birds that already made it? That third fact is the hinge everything else swings on, because it tells you something crucial. Dinosaurs weren't a failed evolutionary experiment that was overdue to die out. They were still adapting, still branching, still working, right up until the moment an object from space made the question irrelevant. So picture the deep time version of this alternate world. 66 million years pass with no impact winter, no mass extinction, no reset button. What happens next isn't dinosaurs standing still while waiting for humans to show up. It's 66 million more years of theropods, sauropods, and ceratopsians doing exactly what they've been doing for the previous 165 million, splitting into new species, adapting to new climates, filling new niches, going extinct the normal way, and being replaced by their own descendants. Islands would likely have produced miniature dwarf species, the way elephants shrink into pygmy forms when isolated. There's fossil evidence this already happened to some dinosaur lineages on ancient European islands. Polar regions, which some dinosaurs already tolerated with early forms of insulation, might have pushed cold-adapted lineages further north and south. The Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous weren't one long static dinosaur age. Each period looked wildly different from the last. There's no reason the next 66 million years wouldn't have looked just as different from the Cretaceous as the Cretaceous looked from the Triassic. And it's worth being specific about what continuing to adapt actually looked like for dinosaurs, because the pattern was already visible before the asteroid hit. Take feathers. For decades, feathers were treated as a bird-only invention. Then in the 1990s, fossil beds in Liaoning, China started producing dinosaur after dinosaur preserved with feather impressions. Not just small ones either. Eutyrannus, a 9-foot-tall relative of T-Rex discovered in 2012, was covered in shaggy, hair-like feathers, almost certainly for insulation rather than flight. That single fossil rewrote what paleontologists thought a typical large predator even looked like. If insulated, feathered body plans were already spreading through multiple dinosaur lineages. Independently, the door was open for descendants adapted to genuinely cold climates. Polar winters, high altitudes, environments no reptile-skinned animal could tolerate. Give that trend another 66 million years, and there's a real case that dinosaurs would have colonized environments they never touched in our actual timeline. And somewhere in all of that continued evolution is where mammals stay stuck. Not extinct, small mammals had already survived 165 million years alongside dinosaurs just fine, hiding in the margins, coming out at night, eating insects and seeds. But margins are the operative word. Every major evolutionary opening that let mammals become large, become diurnal, become dominant, only appeared because the dominant animals in every size class above a house cat disappeared all at once. Remove that opening and mammals likely stay exactly what they were for those 165 million years. Small, nocturnal, unremarkable background characters in somebody else's world. Here's the part almost nobody brings up, though, that doesn't necessarily mean no intelligent life ever emerges. It means it probably doesn't emerge from us. If Dale Russell's basic instinct was right, that big brains and dexterity aren't uniquely mammalian privileges, then the someone who eventually builds tools, controls fire, and asks questions about the universe might not have fur. They might have feathers. Their ancestors might have laid eggs instead of live young. Their history might not include a version of coming down from the trees because their branch of the tree of life never had to. It's speculative, and paleontologists are careful about how far to take it, but the underlying biology isn't a stretch. It's just a different set of winners. Now here's the twist, the part that flips the whole premise on its head. As catastrophic as the asteroid was, there's a real argument that dinosaurs were already trending toward a slow decline before it hit. Some studies of dinosaur diversity in the late Cretaceous, particularly a widely cited 2016 analysis of speciation and extinction rates, found that new dinosaur species were being created more slowly than old ones were dying out in the final few million years before impact, especially among the large plant eaters that everything else in the ecosystem depended on. Other researchers dispute this and argue the fossil record from that period is simply too patchy to draw firm conclusions. Either way, it means the asteroid might not have been the single reason dinosaurs disappeared. It might have been the final blow to a world that was already wobbling, which means the fair version of this thought experiment isn't dinosaurs get forever. It's dinosaurs get more time, more branches, more strange forms, maybe eventually their own version of a species smart enough to look up and wonder what's out there. Possibly a species that never has to develop agriculture the way we did, because it never has to compete with something like us for the same land. Possibly one that never builds a technological civilization at all, because feathers and claws point a species toward different tools than hands built for gripping. There's no guarantee any version of intelligence was inevitable at all in any timeline on any branch. So here's everything that one 6-mile rock actually decided. It decided that mammals got the size classes large-bodied animals had been locked out of for 165 million years. It decided that a nocturnal, burrow-dwelling lineage got its one shot at daylight. It decided that primates would eventually stand up in an ecosystem with no theropods left to compete with. It decided that the thing reading these words right now, with hands instead of talons, with a spine built for standing instead of balancing on 2 legs and a tail, would exist at all. Dinosaurs didn't fail. They ran for 165 million years and were still adapting when the sky changed. Every single thing about human civilization, the fire, the cities, the questions we ask about our own extinction one day, sits downstream of a near miss that wasn't.